Yo guys, JJ Martyr here with another Bagman Gaming video about Outriders. You've heard of damage builds, debuff builds, but I bet you haven't heard of control builds. So what is a control build? Well, I'll tell you, it's exactly what it sounds like. A control build is something that is going to take control of all the mobs on the screen and make sure they're not hopping around and making lunch meat out of your glass cannons, like your Blighted Rounds Techno or your Twisted Rounds Tricksters. And every class can do some sort of control. Now, the best one's probably the Technomancer because they've got their freeze stuff, whether it be a turret or cold snap. Pyromancer rolls in second place with Ash Blast. Then you have a Trickster that can do the Slow Trap and the Time Rift to also control enemies, and a little bit of their Vindicator's Knife that can do that. The Devastator also has Endless Mass, but I really caution the use of Endless Mass in a group because that can really be detrimental to group play, as the transformation process of the mob into the Endless Mass object actually really can ruin the whole game. So what I want to do right here is show you how a Pyromancer, spec'd for control, can handle all of these enemies. So as you can see, that carnivorous mutant pelican / Apache helicopter could do almost nothing against the control build of this Pyromancer. He literally was just frozen in place while, you know, he was able to take care of everything around him. So the Pyromancer, when spec'd properly, can do this and make solo missions and even high tier expedition missions very, very easy. You can take care of your hunts, your bounty hunts, your historian grabs, all of those things with almost no effort at all. You can be half asleep and play one of these control builds and just roll through it. The beauty about it is if you get partnered up with a single target damage dealer like a Techno or a Trickster or even a Devastator that's spec'd with Golem and Firepower, you can just make these guys sitting ducks, literally, to them, and man, you just roll through tier 15 expeditions like they were nothing. However, if you're soloing, you're going to find that while taking out all of these mobs isn't going to hurt you, and it's going to be kind of a very lazy hit and run sort of tactic, the elites like Broodmothers or Captains and such, they do take you a little bit more time. However, I really haven't had a problem getting golds on tier 15s with this type of control build. Now, I mentioned before, the Devastator's Endless Mass is not a real viable skill to use as control because when it comes to a group dynamic, the minute that spell transforms that mob into the Endless Mass object that will pull all the other enemies together, you lose all the damage on it. So that means if you have a Blighted Rounds Technomancer or a Twisted Rounds Trickster, they're unable to do damage, they're unable to make kills, and they're going to lose their spell, and they're going to lose their momentum. So don't do that in a group. In fact, I've left parties before just when I see a Devastator casting Endless Mass. Again, elites like Broodmothers, they're difficult with a control build. But that's all I really have to say about it. Let's get into the build, and I'll show you what I got going here. Now, first and foremost, I have an LMG, which is pretty standard for a pyromancer, especially if you use the volcanic rounds. I have the wicker, which is modified with both ultimate ashen bullets and ultimate burning bullets. This synergizes with how I've got everything set up. I cast my volcanic rounds on my big gun with my big magazine. I light everything on fire, and then I spread ash around. I'm running with Anomaly Echo and Phoenix Force. I'm running with ash damage and an ash damage boost. I'm running with Detonate, which lowers the time of my overheat spell. Twice as hot to light everything on fire and do more damage to it. A couple more overheat mods, especially Sunburnt, which gives you more damage if something is marked. And then finally I use Master Consumer, which allows me to consume both fire and ash and really do a lot of damage that way. So for the skills that I'm using on this control build, I'm using volcanic rounds. I'm not too trigger happy with it. I'm painting the whole battlefield with it. I'm using overheat to consume that burn, and ash blast. And while the momentum gets building with this, these things are burning, they're turning to ash, you're turning them to ash, and they just freeze constantly. So as we look at my skill tree here, it looks a little unorthodox, but it actually works to lower my cooldowns for all of my spells to keep them, to get me into a rhythm in which everything just constantly is frozen on the battlefield. I'm also turning my fire into ash, and I'm making sure that my ash lasts longer. That's really important. And I'm increasing my burn time to make sure that this is always happening. My anomaly power, obviously, my skill leeches, things like that. Then I'm going to go in and go ahead and buff my final explosions to make sure that all my explosions do more damage every time I hit that spell, which is quite frequently. Now, don't forget, if you are playing a pyromancer, I highly recommend putting points in damage to marked enemies, especially if you're using overheat. Overheat is going to mark everything on the battlefield, so everything that you're going to deal damage to from that point on with your twice as hot and your fire and your regular bullets is all going to do more percentages of damage. So is this a viable build? That has two answers for you. First of all, the first answer is this is your game. Play it how you want to. I have fun with this build. I love it. And you should do whatever you want to do. You paid the money for it. Play the game you want. Secondly, yeah, it works. If you like this video, I'd like you to go check out my friends at cryptocomics.com. If you love comics, you love video games like I do, these guys are all video game players and they are comic book collectors. They love the industry. They make sure that the artists get paid every time that there's a trade made online. It's all digital. It's all digital currency. They're great humans. They love games. They love comic books. Go check them out, cryptocomics.com. I've got a link in the description. And if you know how to read, you like science fiction, and you want to support my channel, go to balefirebooks.com and buy a book. Thank you for watching.